Hello YouTube, Clay here, and welcome to my kitchen, where today I will be making some pizza. I will be sticking mostly to the traditional Italian way of making pizza, although I will be making a few changes here and there, both due to personal preference and due to being unable to get ingredients for the proper traditional way of making it. However, before we get started, we start with the dough. That's going to take a while to rise. I will recommend using a scale to measure out the ingredients, and I will be measuring these ingredients for the dough in grams. Makes math much easier, and it makes scaling the recipe for more or less dough as needed also much easier. So with that, let me get the camera set up for close-up and let's get started.
To begin with, we turn on our scale and zero it out. Make sure to set to grams. On this scale I've got for like 20 bucks on Amazon. And be sure to zero the scale out with the bowl on the scale once it is started up, which I forgot to do. And we're going to measure out 500 grams of some Italian 00 flour. Yes, this is inaccurate, but I did correct it later off camera. And we're also going to measure out 325 grams of water, 65% hydration. I'm weighing it. My measuring cups are wildly inaccurate. And now we're going to measure out 10 grams of salt, 2%. You don't have to be as precise and crazy like I am here. That's just how I am. And to the water, we're just going to add a little pinch of sugar. Okay, a second pinch. And we're just going to put in some of our yeast and just mix it around. And the sugar's just there to give the yeast something to feed on. And we're just going to let it sit for about a half hour. I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap just as a visual indication as to CO2 production from the yeast. And we just wait.
Okay, now the reason I proofed the yeast in the water like this before mixing everything together is because I have on more than one occasion, not just with pizza but other sorts of breads as well, mixed everything together, waited for it to rise for several hours, only to realize later on that my yeast was dead. Proofing the yeast like this, and I've got everything mixed together, just wait a few minutes, about 15-20 minutes, ensures me that my yeast is alive and well before I waste several hours of my time waiting for the dough to rise when it isn't going to rise. Okay, you know how I said that how it can be frustrating to wait 2 hours and discover your yeast is dead, hence why I proof it? My yeast is dead. This is actually take two. I had 2 containers. I had the pouches of yeast. I also had a jar of yeast, all of which were dead. So, kind of a plan C, which is extracting some yeast out of beer, which I hope. Now this is Boulevard Brewing Company. Toppings and Pipers definitely love this stuff. This is some of their Snow and Tell barrel aged. A bit old, and I doubt you're going to see it on the screen, on the camera here, but there's sediment in there, which is yeast, which I'm hoping is still alive. Alright, now this last part I missed on camera. I did not realize my camera battery died, but since all of my yeast was dead, my baking yeast, I took a bottle of this Boulevard Brewing Company Snow and Tell from last year. I poured myself a beer. Okay, there's still some stuff left in the bottle. poured myself the beer, left a little bit in there with all the sediment, put some water in the bottle, shook it up real good, poured it out into the jar on my scale to measure it, and added water, measured out the rest of the 325 grams of water that I needed on the scale. With that, set it in here, so I got 325 grams of water with a little bit of beer in there and the beer yeast. Put some cling wrap over the top just for visual indication that I am getting some CO2, and I did set it in a small bowl of some warm water, which just to help move things along. So I've got some I've got some live yeast now, so let me grab the bread machine and we'll get the, sorry, I'm doing 3 different things at once. Get the bread machine out here and get it mixed up.
Now, since I don't have a stand mixer with a dough hook, and I do not feel like mixing this all out and using it by hand, that's just too much work, I'm just going to dump everything into my bread machine. Make sure I do have it on manual mode, so it will not bake the bread or make the dough into a loaf of bread. It will just mix it and proof it for me. Makes my life a lot easier. The traditional way is to do it by hand or a slow speed stand mixer with a dough hook. Again, don't have this stand mixer, and doing it by hand is too much work for me when I'm already been awake for as long as I have and have a long night ahead. So, flour and salt, and add our beer yeast and water mixture, and we just turn it on and let the machine do its work. And once the machine has done its job, it has proofed it, kneaded it. Dough gives us a nice window pane test, which I did not show on camera. We're just going to take our bench scraper after we remove the paddle, shape it into a bowl, take a bench scraper, cut off our portions. I'm cutting off about 2 billiard ball size-ish pieces of dough for our 2 pizzas. I'm just going to shape them into a ball and leave them out on our floured surface, which I use semolina flour for this at this point. Reasons I will explain later. Shape them up, and I'm just going to cover them with some plastic wrap here, and I'm just going to let them sit for a couple hours. It took me a little longer just because my kitchen is rather cool on this particular night. But let it sit covered until it's poofed up a bit, and that's the dough taken care of. Right, for our sauce, I'm going to start by dicing up 1 rather mediocre size onion. Not the biggest onion in the world, but enough for what I need. And I am using a Chinese style chef's knife just because that's the sharpest one I have right now. I really need to take all of my knives to the sharpening stone, which I will show how I sharpen my knives in another video. Here I am just doing a standard slice along the length and the width. Standard onion dicing procedure. One thing I do like about these Chinese chef's knives is they allow you to scoop up the diced pieces of onion and whatever really quite nicely. Just set it into a bowl for now. Set it off to the side. Other half of the onion. Now, this sauce isn't entirely a traditional pizza sauce. The traditional pizza sauce is tomatoes, olive oil, basil, and a bit of salt, just mixed up by hand. Some people I've seen use a blender, but I'm doing this style just because I like the flavor of it better. And yes, these were some pretty strong onions. Next, I'm going to add quite a bit of garlic, because that's a 2-pound bag of garlic that I'm working my way through. And I've got a second bag there, so I'm just going to grab a few cloves, dice them up real fine. I don't need to make it into a paste, but I think I've got 3 cloves there. just going to dice them up. Set them into another bowl and set them aside. You don't need to listen to me talk over it. I'm kind of chopping up the garlic much the same way I did the onion, along the width, going all the way this time, and then just turning it 90 degrees and cutting it across the long pieces into little cubes, roughly. Hey, we all know how to dice up a tomato or garlic. There's better people on YouTube to show you how to do that. I don't have the best camera setup. You can kind of see me trying to describe it in words isn't the best. All right. There's our garlic taken care of. And now we move over onto my stove. I take my stainless steel. It's almost a wok, but it's not quite a wok, but that's what I'm using. Set it over some medium heat, medium low. Add some olive oil, and we're going to set our onions in there into the pan and just sweat out the onions. Get them onions caramelized and get rid of the sharpness. Once our oil is up to temperature, I really should have cut this part out, but of course I didn't, and I'm not going back and doing it now. Yes, apparently I didn't show putting the onions in there. Okay, so we put the onions in there, some bit of salt. I don't know what I was doing with filming. I messed something up, but salt, onions, just cook them down, caramelize them over 45 minutes or so. Don't want to rush this thing or you're going to end up burning your onion. You get this nice golden color, nice and sweet. Yeah, add our garlic in just for a few minutes. Definitely want to be careful with that. We don't want to burn our garlic. We're just going to mix it around until it's nice and fragrant. At this point, I dump in 1 can of San Marzano tomatoes. These are grown from the region around Mount Vesuvius in Italy. If you cannot find them, regular canned whole tomatoes will do the job. I got those tomatoes from Amazon. They were like $3 a can. I'm also going to add at this point a fairly large dollop of tomato paste. It will help reduce the time I need to simmer it. And I'm just going to use my spatula to break up the tomatoes. I'm going to add in a fairly large amount of basil. I do like basil. This is some stuff. My dad does have some herbs growing that I was able to go over and get some. The basil is starting to go to seed though, and it does lose its flavor a bit once that happens, so I do add quite a bit. A few minutes later, since I forgot to do so earlier, I add in a bit of salt, a large amount of black pepper. I do tend to go overboard or go pretty heavy with the black pepper. I do like my black pepper. And be sure to taste your sauce after you add these ingredients. I don't show it on camera, but I do taste it. I added some dried oregano. Fresh would be a million times better, but I do not have fresh oregano, and I cannot get a hold of any. I'm going to add in a couple of bay leaves, and I am going to toast up some fennel seeds here and add that as well. I'm just toasting them over a low heat on a cast iron skillet just because I don't have a stainless steel like frying pan. All of them are cast iron. So just toast it a bit over a low heat. You do not want to burn those fennel seeds. Just nice, little bit toasted. In they go. Give the sauce a good mix. Simmer it down, mixing occasionally for about 45 minutes to an hour until it's nice and reduced to the thickness that you like it. I do like my sauce a bit thicker than what most pizza sauces are. And after that time, I fish out the bay leaves and the basils stems and don't really want large chunks. All the flavor is in the sauce. It is quite delicious. I cannot stop eating it. I do like making the sauce like this way. It is quite delicious. And I'm going to go ahead and add the sauce into a quart mason jar just because for storage, this is way more than enough, more than I'm going to need for the 2 pizzas that I'm going to make. Um, so it will keep in the fridge for a while, about a couple weeks to maybe a month. It depends on how well you store it and how long the mold stays off. And that is the sauce completed and ready to go.
Before we start assembling our pizzas, just a quick word on toppings. Your toppings should be safe to eat before you put them on the pizza and before they go in the oven. Stuff like hamburger, sausage, definitely needs to be pre-cooked. A lot of your vegetables, mushrooms, onions, green peppers, you don't necessarily need to pre-cook, although do be careful with some wild mushrooms do need to be pre-cooked. And with even with white button mushrooms or creminis, I like to pre-cook them a bit, get rid of some of the excess moisture in them. Green peppers, onions, I do like this. Throw them on a pan for a bit, just give it a different flavor. Today I'm going to be making 3 different kinds of pizza, or correction, 2. I was going to make 3, but only 2. First is going to be margherita, probably the most classic Italian. The second one's going to be a pepperoni pizza. I've got some nice pepperoni. I am going to cut these pepperonis into smaller pieces because these are massive pepperonis. Now, pepperoni pizza in itself is not a traditional Italian type of pizza per se. Now, in Italy, they do have a spicy salami pizza, pizza diavolo. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that 100%. But it is a spicy salami, which here in America we cannot get. At least I cannot get in my small town. So pepperoni pizza is kind of a distant, weird cousin to that, I would say. Also in pizza diavolo, again, I'm screwing that up. I've seen some Italian chefs put jalapenos on there, which I'm not going to be doing. That is way too spicy for me. I cannot handle jalapenos. Even that's too much, let alone something like a ghost pepper. Yeah, forget it. I was going to make a third pizza, prosciutto e fungi. Again, mispronouncing it. It's ham and mushrooms, and I actually got some prosciutto. Not authentic Italian stuff, I'm pretty sure. Doesn't have the protected origin stuff on it. But our local grocery stores where I live have been having trouble getting some decent quality ham and stuff they've been able to get. It's been rather watery and lacking flavor. So I was going to use this stuff for the ham and mushroom pizza. And in all my wisdom, I did not bother to get mushrooms. It is about 6:30 in the morning. The store does not open till 11. I will be fast asleep by then. So we're just going to do it too. So, also, I do not have a proper pizza peel. That is on the list of things I need to get. Along with a wood-fired pizza oven, also on the list. But instead, I will be using the back of this baking sheet. It'll work fine. And now let's get to assembling the pizzas. One last thing I do need to address before we do assemble the pizzas. The elephant in the room, if you will. Yeah. If you insist, at least use a fresh pineapple. Really? I don't like pineapple on pizza. Why do I even have this? I don't know. But anyway.
Alright, I'm going to start off here with placing my pizza stone on the top rack of my oven, as high as it'll go, and turning my boiler on high. As high as it'll go about a half hour before the pizzas go in the oven. I want that stone nice and hot. And I'm also going to take a vegetable peeler and just slice off a few slices of some Parmesan, not authentic Italian Parmesan, some stuff from Wisconsin, but I couldn't get the real thing, so I'm just shaving off the beef shavings, and I'll break them up with my fingers. There we go. Now, to start making the actual pizzas, I slide the other dough ball off to the side for now, and sprinkle the working surface in the dough, as well as my makeshift pizza peel with some semolina flour. You can use just regular flour if you want. I use my fingertips to define the edge of the crust, just pressing around the outside about 3/4 of an inch or half an inch, and just using my fingers to stretch it, pick it up using the back of your hand just to gently stretch the dough out to the final size. Don't worry about it being too round. You do not want to use a rolling pin for this. A rolling pin will pop all of the little bubbles. Make sure if you have any large air bubbles in your dough to go ahead and pop them, but you do want a lot of the smaller ones in there. Place the dough on the peel. Make sure it slides around. Cover it with sauce. A bit of Parmesan cheese. And it goes on next. And I'm going to use some fresh mozzarella here, which I'm just going to rip off a few pieces and place them right on the pizza. Don't need to get a knife. You can use regular low moisture part skim mozzarella. I do like to use chunks even with that. Once it's ready to go in the oven, my pizza stone is preheated. It gets to about 500 degrees. Right on this stone, the pizza goes, and in it goes, cooking for about 2.5 to 3 minutes in my oven. I do rotate the pizza about 90 degrees halfway through. My boiler does not produce the most even heat in the world, so this just helps the pizza cook a little more evenly. And about 2.5 to 3 minutes later, pizza's ready to come out, at which point, since this is a pizza margherita, I top it up with some more fresh basil. I probably could have done it before it went in the oven, but I didn't want to risk burning the basil, and it worked out just fine. And the pepperoni pizza, same procedure. I did cut the pepperoni into a couple of slices into six, so getting show that on camera. The procedure's the same, so we're just going to fast forward right through that, and I'm going to stop talking until they're out of the oven and ready to go.
Now, both my pizzas are out of the oven and done. They look wonderful, and they smell delicious. Now, in Italy, pizza would be served just like this, fresh out of the oven. No cooling down stuff. In Italy, pizza is also served unsliced on a plate like this and eaten with a knife and fork, usually. So, I am going to wait just a bit before I eat that. I got some beauty shots to do, and And I'm going to dig in off camera, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you in hopefully another cooking video fairly soon. Take care, everybody.
One final thing is, with this method of cooking a pizza, it is best eaten right out of the oven, just like the Italians do it. It will not burn the roof of your mouth like it would if you used a regular oven baking method. And with that, I thank you for watching, and I hope you give this a shot, and I will see you in my next video, hopefully a cooking video soon.